Hi, I'm Mandy Ruddle, and I will be teaching a lesson on art analysis and appreciation. I will be teaching 8th grade students, and my student that I will be working with individually is Jessica. I will use the teaching strategy called metacognitive strategy to address a specific learning disorder in a student with ADHD to improve their visual and perceptual comprehension abilities. So the specific metacognitive strategy that I will be using is called aesthetic perception, and I will get into that a little bit later. But first off, I have my classroom expectations. So first off, we have kind, and students are expected to be kind and to remember that whenever they are getting frustrated or overwhelmed with a classmate or themselves or even materials, I want them to remember to take a step back, take a deep breath, and realize that it takes more energy to be rude than it does to be kind. The next one is honest. Honesty is very important. It's important to be honest to others, but also to yourself. So, for example, if students are cheating on a homework assignment, they should be honest with themselves because cheating does not help them academically with their learning. And so if students want to learn and gain skills, they have to be honest with themselves. And another example of this would look like a student being honest with themselves and accepting the fact that they may be struggling with some homework and asking for help. The next one is respectful. Students are expected to be respectful of each other, as well as themselves and the classroom and materials. The next one is patient. Patience is very important. Again, patience can apply to the student with themselves as well as their classmates, the teacher, and with learning. Sometimes, for example, if I have ever struggled with learning something, I become impatient and frustrated with struggling to learn how to do it, but patience is important and it will make the wait worthwhile. And then lastly is try. All of these are very important, but trying is, I think deserves a little spotlight, but I want students to realize that they are expected to try just with everything in the classroom and outside of the classroom, and that even if they put forth the smallest amount of effort, that is still an accomplishment in itself, and it's still enough. So as long as you try, it doesn't matter how much you put into it, as long as you are trying. Okay, next I will be going into the intervention strategy that I chose, the metacognitive strategy, more specifically called aesthetic perception. And here I have the definition of each word individually. And so aesthetic is defined as being concerned with beauty or the appreciation of beauty. And perception is just a way of regarding, understanding, and interpreting something. Perception can be the interpretation of a physical object or an idea, physical and non-physical. So aesthetic perception can be defined as a process in which an individual goes beyond simply looking at the components of something, the components that make something up, and instead actively and consciously look further into these elements and what their relationship with each other might be. And basically, the strategy teaches students how to become aware of how they take in what they are viewing and how they make connections, and also how these things make them feel. So to help Jessica visualize this better, I have created a visual aid that I will work with her individually to go through each part of it. So you will see that there is a box on the top and the bottom. This one up here says person, and then this one down here is art. So with the relationship with person to art, when a person makes art, this is referred to as expression. So this expression could be the person symbolizing like their emotion, or also maybe depicting a realization of ideas. And so the person to art relationship again is expression. The person uses art as a mode of communicating certain ideas. And then the relationship of art to the person, this is called impression. The art leaves an impression on the person. And so impression is aesthetic perception. So the person can gain an appreciation of the art as well as a judgment. They develop their own ideas and interpretations of this art, and therefore it's a result of the impression that the art has left on the person. So the central focus for the general education lesson is learning what art elements and principles there are, since these are important to understanding how we interpret art. So I have created two posters, one poster for the elements of art and then another for the principles. So first off, we have space, color, shape, form, value, texture, and line. And these posters will be much larger, so it's a lot easier to view if you're looking at it from across the classroom. And these will be located on the walls of my classroom, so that way students can just look up at the wall and refer to them at any time they need. So I will go through each element and explain their definition more in depth than the kind of keywords that I have written on here. But yeah, these are the elements of art. And then next we have the principles of art, or the principles of design. And these are proportion, balance, unity, variety, emphasis, movement, and pattern. And again, this will be a much larger poster that will be located on the classroom wall, so that way students can look up to it and refer to it whenever they need to. So the essential questions, for this part we will be looking at artworks and referring to the questions that I have here, which are: what is the first thing you noticed when you saw this artwork? What elements and principles can you identify being used? How does the use of these elements and principles make this artwork successful? And in what ways can these intentional uses of elements and principles reflect the character of the artist? So this first piece that I have here is called the Calling of St. Matthew. This is from the Baroque time period. That's not relevant right now, but just a little background. And so first I will identify some elements that I noticed when I first saw this. So line is an element that I see from this light that's coming in from this window over here. And there's also this sort of implied line, which comes from the figure's gaze that kind of follows this line. So that adds to, basically extends this line. And then a principle of design. I see balance in this piece because the figures in this are all visually distributed evenly throughout the space, so to the eye it appears visually balanced. Moving on to the next piece, we have the Oath of Hirati. Excuse me. This is also from the Baroque time period. And first off, some elements that I noticed right off the bat are, again, line. We see a lot of different kinds of line here. We see line with these figures' gaze, again, that implied line, as well as extending into their arms. We also see a line in this little staff here and the swords. We also see lines in the background with the structure, these columns. And then also I would say that emphasis would be brought onto this area right here due to this figure's gaze upward as well as these this way. So kind of this would be the part where there is emphasis. So the accommodations that I will be making are providing one-on-one instruction for Jessica. So we will be doing the same exercise with learning the elements of art and principles of art. But since it is one-on-one, this will allow Jessica lots of time to learn each element and principle, as well as have the opportunities to ask any questions that she has to clarify her understanding. And again, this one-on-one instruction will also eliminate the stress or pressure from her classmates, and will also kind of help keep her accountable, since it will just be her and I going over this. We will do the same exercise where we will look at different pieces of art, and she will name off elements and principles that she identifies by looking at it. If she were to get stuck or need help with identifying anything, I can ask guiding questions such as, where are some examples that you see line? And she might respond with, oh, I see line in these columns. I also see lines in these swords. And so this one-on-one instruction will be helpful for Jessica because she has ADHD. And so ADHD can have an effect on a student's behavior, such as talking impulsively, just like blurting out things like words, hyperactive talking, as well as inattentiveness. And inattentiveness can look like daydreaming, where they're kind of just off thinking about other things. So this one-on-one instruction will ensure that Jessica is on track, since it will be a direct situation where we are working with each other.